All right, let's talk more about the bad news involving Jose Altuve. Pleasure to be joined by Astros TV analyst, fan favorite, Geoff Blum. Blummer, good to see you, man.
Good to be on. Normally under some better circumstances, but always a good time being on with you, Randy.
Hey, we're just over 10 days away from opening day, Geoff, and the news came down. You've seen it. Everybody's seen it now. How about this broken right thumb on Jose Altuve? How devastating is this right now on the cusp of opening a new season?
I'm the guy that's always going to try and nurture hope and see the positive side of things. But this is something that could have happened in a spring training game. You know, we've seen Brandon Nimmo for the Mets. We saw Gavin Lux for the Los Angeles Dodgers. You know, they had some pretty catastrophic injuries that are going to take them out for the rest of the season. And I know this is an exhibition. That's a whole nother argument. But for Jose Altuve to understand that he is having the surgery on his thumb, possibly being out 8 to 10 weeks, I think it's a good time in the sense that it's early in the year. If this happens sometime in August or September, there might be a little more panic because you're heading into a postseason. But I'm holding out hope that this is a good time for him to have this injury, to heal up and find himself ready about, a couple of months into the season, and the Astros should be just fine.
All right, so that's it's top hand. He's a right-handed hitter, Blummer. So walk us through it now. What's it like in the healing process when you've got, in this case, the top hand, that top thumb, being ready to come back and play at a major league level?
Yeah, that's a tough one because that top hand, obviously the first thing you want to get back is your grip strength, being able to hold the bat, swing the bat the way you want to, and then you've got to start hitting off the tee, and that's when you might see a little bit of an issue because the impact, that's going to test this, the structural integrity of that thumb. Is it able to absorb a lot of that impact? Now, there's padding that you can put on that thumb to allow him to go out there and try and play through that, but I think that's going to be the biggest hurdle, is being able to handle the impact of the baseball on the bat. And once he gets past that, hopefully he gets back to being Jose Altuve, because he creates a lot of impact with his ability to get the barrel to the baseball.
Absolutely. So I want to ask you this, now that they've got to make a decision, Blummer, he's going to be out a while, might be mid-May, late May, who knows? Who's going to fill in at second base? You've been down there with the club. I think Hensley played there today down in Florida. You've got Mauricio Dubon maybe plays. Where do you see the direction Dusty Baker will go here at second base?
You know what? It's nice that he does have a couple of options. With Aledmys Diaz moving to the Oakland A's, that kind of creates the void that needs to be filled by a guy like David Hensley or a guy like Mauricio Dubon. I think that Mauricio Dubon is probably the little more athletic guy. He's just got a little bit smaller frame to him. Yeah. He's a little bit quicker on his feet. But at the same time, David Hensley at 6'6", covers a lot of ground, knows how to play shortstop, so it'd be an easy transition to second base. And I think it's going to come down to offensively. Are you going to be able to have a guy in that lineup that's going to help the team by getting on base and creating good at bats? And that's really where David Hensley has kind of made his mark on this organization and on this roster, is his ability to have these great at bats. But I think coming down the stretch here, like you mentioned earlier, about 10, 12 days away from coming back here to Houston and starting the season, you're going to see a lot of David Hensley and a lot of Mauricio Dubon at second base. It's going to also have a lot to do with the ability of Joe Espada to teach these guys how to play a great second base, because you're losing a bat in Altuve, but he could also play a great Gold Glove second base.
Yeah, you're losing the bat, the glove, and just the leadership you've got in that clubhouse. What's the mindset? You were a former player. What are they thinking right now when you see your leader go down like this, close to the start of a season? Mentally, what kind of toll does that take on a team?
In other organizations, I would say would be pretty tough, because Jose Altuve may not be that vocal leader in the media or on the field where he's screaming at everybody, but he's definitely a guy that leads by example. So just having the presence of a Jose Altuve in that clubhouse means everything to these guys. And he's really one of those guys that established the culture that is so coveted around the league in that organization. So I think having him around will have a lot to do with it, but realizing that you're not having a 900 OPS, perennial all-star, potential MVP candidate in your lineup has a huge impact. But we also know that there's 7 or 8 other guys in this lineup that could really pick up the slack. You want to make sure that Yordan Alvarez is healthy to the middle part of that order. But these guys are going to be all right. And I'm just going to reiterate, early on in the season, that's where you want to have some of these issues, because it's not necessarily how you finish sometimes. How you start sometimes. It's mostly how you finish. And with Altuve coming back healthy, that'll allow the Astros to finish strong this season again.
You were down there. You guys have broadcasted several games down there in the West Palm Beach area. You got a glimpse of the guys again, the newcomer, Jose Abreu and company. Hey, they're the world champions. It's tough to repeat, but do you like the makeup of this club despite what we're going through right now, not knowing the status of Lance McCullers Jr.? Do you still like what they have from a pitching standpoint and, of course, a lineup as well that Dusty can throw out there?
No, I absolutely do. That's one of the craziest things about being around this ball club is even though they've won a couple of World Series, keep going back to a championship series every single year, these guys are still thirsty for more. They don't know how to turn off that competitive edge, and they love having that target on their back. They love the adversity. That's what they've been dealing with since 2020. So this is nothing for these guys. And anytime you go out there and try and doubt what they're doing, they will go out there and play that much harder. So I expect these guys to be able to cover up some of these issues. And again, it's still early on. It's at the beginning of the season. I'd be a little more concerned if it was around All-Star break or you had a surging Seattle Mariner team in August or September. That's where I'd be a little concerned. But these guys are old enough. They're veteran enough. And think about the opportunity this creates for a Hensley or a Dubon and maybe some other guys to rotate around the outfield to create a little more depth or get a Justin Dearden maybe on a big league roster. This creates opportunities for experience, and we know how valuable that can be on this ball club when they start to press and get into that postseason.
Hey, coming off the MVP honors in the World Series and ALCS, what kind of pressure do you think is on Jeremy Pena coming into this year to maybe get off to a faster start?
Well, I think that, normal humans would have issues with that and put pressure on themselves. But this guy's a freak, man. The more we see him, almost the better he gets every single day. He's in better shape, I think, than we saw him at this time last year. He's got another year of experience. He's got a relationship with Alex Cintron and Troy Snicker. So I think that those peaks and valleys are going to be a little more consistent throughout the course of the season. You're going to see him be a little bit more steady in that sophomore season. Obviously, the opposing teams are going to adjust to him, but I think that he's got the athleticism, the ability, and that mental fortitude to be able to make adjustments throughout the course of the season. And those struggles he had last year to start out that season, I think are going to really benefit him early on because now he knows what he's getting into. Last year, he moved into a spot. He didn't know how he was going to fit in or how other teams were going to approach him. Now he has a much better idea. He's comfortable in his own skin, and he's absolutely supremely confident after that postseason he had. So he might get off to a pretty good start.
Yeah, he's cut pretty well, too. Did you spend any time in the weight room with him when you were down there?
Man, no way. I'm not going to hang around that dude. I feel pretty good about myself until I stand next to a guy like Jose Abreu or a Jeremy Pena. And those guys, I'm going, okay, yeah, these guys are bigger and way better.
Hey, lastly, before I let you go, Blummer, the pitching staff, and circle back to, obviously, when we were down there, pitchers and catchers, we got news of the whole Lance McCullers Jr. situation. We don't know the latest on where that stands. When you look at this pitching staff, you lock in on Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, these guys, it's time to step up. And, hey, you're already missing Verlander. Now you're going to be missing McCullers Jr. here for a little bit.
Well, yeah, that was one of the conversations I would have with a lot of people is, you lost Justin Verlander, who won the Cy Young last season. How are you going to replace that? And you were pretty comfortable going with 1A, 1B with Framber Valdez and Lance McCullers Jr., and then moving into a Christian Javier, Luis Garcia, Jose Urquidy, Hunter Brown could emerge. Forrest Whitley still waiting in the wings. And I think that you really felt that you had some depth. But now that little wiggle room that you were kind of relying on in that 5, 6, maybe 7 spot, all those guys move up with Lance, going on the shelf to start the season. But again, we've seen this in the past. The Astros did a great job of preparing their starters for last season, even to buffer a little bit until Lance McCullers Jr. was ready to go. And I would imagine it's going to be the same situation this year. It's just going to be Framber Valdez in the lead, Christian Javier behind him, and then you're going to have to see, they're not young guys anymore, but guys like Luis Garcia and Jose Urquidy really step up and solidify, that 3, 4, 5 part in the rotation to allow Hunter Brown to have an impact early on, hopefully.
They the team to beat AL West still?
100%. Yeah. Until I know that the Seattle Mariners have done a good job of constructing a very competitive ball club, but at the same time, I just don't see the pieces that are able to go out there and compete. The Angels, they have to stay healthy. They've got some of the best players in the game, but I just don't know if they have the pitching to back up what their offense has the potential to do. Jacob DeGrom in Texas is, he's one of the sexier signs, but at the same time, if you're not able to go out there and score runs, it's kind of meaningless what those guys go out there and pitch.
Hey, lastly, all these speedy games we're seeing in spring training, I was going to get your take. I mean, when you guys got on the West Coast, you and TK and Julia, the Astros After Dark, Is that number going to go down a little bit, all these fast games we're seeing, or what?
I tell you what, it was an eye-opener watching those games as quick as they were going, not just for the players, but also in the booth. Our production crew had to make some major adjustments trying to accommodate some of the highlights and some of the shots we normally get. And I know for myself, I've got to really condense some of my stories a little bit and be a little more abrupt in what I'm trying to get out there. But it's going to be interesting, and that is one of the first things that popped up between the three of us, Julia, TK, and myself, and fans was, you're right, those West Coast games, we're going to lose some of those Astros after darks, and those get to be pretty good times sometimes.
You might be done by 11 o'clock Central, man. I mean,
so much free time for activities. I don't know what we're going to do.
Right. Hey, Blummer, great to catch up, talk a little baseball, man. It's exciting, a new season upon us. Again, the bad news for Jose Altuve, but he will return, and hopefully sooner rather than later. Great talking with you, and we will see you soon. Hey, we're getting close to that opener at Minute Maid Park.
Yeah, good to catch up with you, and I can't wait.
All right, thanks a lot, man.